right, we're in here, free balling it. I probably shouldn't have done that, but that's how I felt. Episode 2 of As a Man. As you can see, I'm still doing the car recording escapades. This time, I am in, what's the official name of this plaza? Not Brentwood Promenade, but adjacent, next door to Brentwood Promenade, where the Chick-fil-A is, Dearburg's, DSW, all of that in Brentwood / Maplewood. Another challenging week, slightly less challenging, but a persistent challenge, in line with the theme of the past few years. Still applying for jobs. I did work a gig over the weekend that was, so I signed up for a stagehand union, and I signed up for that on Tuesday of last week. They called me Thursday morning saying, we got a job for you in an hour. Can you get downtown? I said yes. And so I got down to the Dome, Edward Jones Dome, formerly now the Dome at America Center. And lo and behold, Chris Brown and Usher were doing their rehearsals for their upcoming tour, the R&B tour, at the Dome. And they had been there for like a week. So for whatever reason, St. Louis was a good launching spot for their tour and rehearsal spot. And they needed more workers to help break down the stage. I missed out on the assembly part because I hadn't applied yet. But I get down there, work Thursday, work Friday, 10 hours Thursday, 12 hours on Friday. Friday was like 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. And so I'm anticipating a hefty check on Friday from those 2 days. They pay very, very well. It was a blessing. The timing of it was perfect. You know, it was God's timing, but it was needed. Since then, no bites, no dice. I think I got an email Thursday morning or Friday morning from a job I applied for as a community support specialist, and I got declined on that job, which I did an interview for, a virtual interview. And then I had another job that I applied for where I had an interview yesterday in person, and it was basically like a on the job kind of interview, like, can you do this, let's see how you function doing this and that. Basically having to put together different items, like putting a bike together and a grill, stuff like that. I only put a bike together. And they emailed me this morning. Today's Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. They emailed me this morning saying that I didn't get that position. So that's the first time I can remember in my life going 0 for 2 on jobs I applied for that I also interviewed for. I've had different positions say we're moving in a different direction, whatever, from my application. But I think I was undefeated on the interviews. I think I was like, you know what I mean? Every time I got an interview, I got the job offer. This is the first time I can remember not getting the job after an interview, and then it happened twice in a row within a week. So that was discouraging, especially since the job I'm waiting on it's almost been 2 months that I've been waiting on that one. But we'll see. Applied for some other jobs at the hospital, or within the local hospital chain or network. That's the word. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just got some gas. Only put $20 in the tank. Trying to stretch that. I got my racket restrung, which probably wasn't the wisest decision financially. It's about $50. But I have a lot of wrist pain because I have been getting to the tennis court, and I don't know if that's from lifting or a bad lift, or if it's from being on the court with bad string tension. If you play tennis and you hit consistently with poor string tension and some older balls that have started to fluff up, and they're a little heavier, that can cause injury. And so I'm hoping it wasn't that, but I was like, I need to get that addressed. Again, probably not the wisest decision, where I only have less than $100 for the next 3 days. But trying to prioritize and balance out my self-care things that really matter to me and really help me to stay even keeled with the necessities. Still working on that balance. And like I said, I did other job applications today, so we'll see what happens the rest of this week. Some minor news in the city I thought was interesting was like this sinkhole. I figured that was worth documenting. It's like the talk of the weekend last week. This large sinkhole opened up across from the Dome, downtown, just off of the highway exit on the Broadway, and it was underneath the highway, and it was like a 30-foot sinkhole, 30-foot diameter or depth. I don't know. And that's pretty much got the city in a chokehold right now, especially people who, what's the word? I've been losing my words. Commute through downtown on a daily basis. It's added like a half hour to people's commute. Juneteenth was Friday. I didn't really get to celebrate that because I was at work. And I slept so hard Thursday night into Friday morning. I didn't have time to try to find something in the morning or early afternoon. I didn't even want to risk it. I just went straight to work. But it was like one of the biggest Juneteenth celebrations, if not the biggest Juneteenth celebration in St. Louis history. Different parks all over the city, Dalewood, Forest Park, St. Ferdinand, downtown, basically all over the north side, and then Tower Grove on the south side. I thought that was cool. I wish I wouldn't have missed out on that. The theme of my year this year, going into the year, I fully anticipated this being what I called, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, I fully anticipated this year and expected this year to be what I called an eat shit year. This is going to be a year where I just eat shit for 12 months with the end goal of graduating next year, getting my license, and elevating in that way next year, 2027. So I fully anticipated that at the end of 2025, going into 2026. I didn't expect it to be like this. I didn't expect it to. I expected it in the way I expected it. You know what I mean? Like you can say, oh, this is going to go good, and it probably goes better than you expected, or something. This is going to go bad and it goes worse than you expected. This is the latter, for sure. Having the issues with my license, this divorce situation, work situation, getting kicked out of school, having to, get readmitted. It's been a rough year, but along with that expectation, my original expectation, I was like, you know what? No concerts, no. I don't know how else to say it other than no enjoyment. No enjoyment. Like, this is not a year for enjoyment. This is not a year to live it up. This is a year to lock in. And so halfway through the year, to have the results that I had, it makes me question whether I should have just tried to enjoy as much as I could. For instance, the last week of the semester this spring, I had a wedding to go to. And my homie was getting married in Dallas. I was ready to bail on the wedding in late April because I saw how the semester was going. And I'm like, man, I don't think I can do it. I'm having issues with the car, with the license, having issues with my intern site, trying to get those hours, XYZ. Like, I'm seeing where the semester's going, and I'm like, the wedding's got to be expendable. And my other homie, a mutual friend of me and the guy who was getting married, he just kept saying, no, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you there. You know, he wants you there. You know, it would be good. He wants to see you there. It would be good if you're there. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Let's make it work. And so I took that whole weekend, I think it was like Thursday through Sunday, and that whole weekend I'm working. I'm doing homework in all my classes. I'm preparing for a final. Like, I'm wrapping up my semester on the road to Dallas. And the whole time I was in Dallas doing homework. The only time I came out the cave was at the wedding and the reception. And even at the reception, it wasn't even a wedding. They didn't have a wedding. It was just a reception. Even at the reception, I was doing homework. I think I did my final at the wedding for one of my classes at the reception. So, in hindsight, since I still failed the classes, I'm like, damn, I should have just said, F the classwork. Let me just be fully present in this moment and fully enjoy this moment with my homie who's getting married. And then find out that his lady got pregnant. I think she got pregnant that night, I think. But yeah, shot the club up. But anyway, things like considerations like that. It's like, should I leave room for enjoyment in ways that I didn't anticipate or didn't plan? Or should I stick to the plan and for these last 6 months continue to block out stuff? Because I'm listening to music on the way to recording this, and I was like, dang, is this artist coming to St. Louis? They are. This artist who just dropped the album that I love, are they coming to St. Louis? They are. And I'm like, I already know how it feels with other artists I love, where they drop a certain album at a certain period of time, and if you don't catch them on tour or catch their concert during that period of time, you've missed the whole thing. Like, they're not going to play these other songs that might be, deep album cuts, or they might not just have the performance in a way that you know them to have. They're going to transition to a different part of their career. I've experienced that with multiple artists that I love. I catch them on tour too late, and now they've got albums and ideas and concepts that it's like, that's cool, but that's not why I fell in love with you or your music. So I'm thinking through stuff like that. And then also dating. Like, I've been having the urge to date, even though I'm still married, So I'm like, do I rush this process of this divorce while God may be doing some work on the other end? Because I don't know what's happening over there. I haven't had no communication. He might be doing some stuff that I'm unaware of, moving some hearts and minds and decisions around, and I'm trying to force this other move. So it's just like all of these different considerations is kind of like directing me back to, let me just focus on the main thing, which is getting back in school, using the rest of this summer to try to find work, of course, but also refresh myself on the material I've previously learned and really try to make myself the best possible professional and the best possible counselor I can be when that time comes, so that I can maximize my opportunities. That's kind of where I'm banking my hope practically. Obviously, my hope spiritually is in the Lord. I'm working more and more on exercising real faith and really allowing Him to direct my paths and my decisions more now than ever before. In the absence of being able to control anything, a true hands-off approach. Not, I got faith and some control, some hands on the wheel. So obviously that faith, but also practically, like, my decisions and my behavior is like, focus on the work. Control what you can't control. So I took some notes on how I kind of want to approach this in future episodes. I think I'm going to take the first 15 like I just did and give an update, a loose update on bigger things in life that kind of jumped out to me. Second 15, I'll kind of go through different checkpoints, like how I'm doing mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. And then I throw financial in there just because as a man, it's kind of hard in modern American culture, if not world culture, to divorce manhood from financial placement or acumen. So I'll give an update on that too. So financially, we'll start with that. Like I said, I got signed up for the union for stagehands. I got that gig. Pretty easy work, but you're on your feet most of the time unless you go sneak a seat, which I did multiple times. My knee started to flare up, my left knee, which I injured. I didn't injure it, but I hurt it in February, like a week or so before my birthday, on the leg press. Randomly did a rep, felt like a little pop, and it's been bothering me ever since. If I stand too long, if it's too much weight bearing, if I don't warm it up a little bit before doing certain movements, I've got an old man knee now, which I never expected to have at 37. And it's still got to favor a little bit. So that was the only thing that bothered me with those two shifts. Especially like up and down on stages or climbing on top of stuff. I wasn't jumping down on nothing, especially on concrete. I was just like, nah, I'm not taking no risks. I probably could have done it, but it's like, nah, I'm gonna take it light. So it was a smooth shift, decent rapport with co-workers, and again, most importantly, financially, really good money in a 2-day span. All my accounts are, just being completely transparent, my main account is zeros. No, my main account is in the negative because I had a annual transaction pop out for Dropbox, and that sent me into the negative because I wasn't anticipating that. So that's that. My second account, my longer term account that I have used before my newest one, that's all zeros, but that's where I threw a little cash in from. So this is what I did, right? So I sold a stock. I had one stock of Reddit. I had cleared out my Robinhood account and divvied that up, or did whatever with that while trying to get the ball rolling on a divorce. And then I ended up buying Reddit when they IPO'd last year. I bought them at like 40, 30, 35, 40. Sold it last Friday. I sold it at 170 something. Cause that's where I'm at. Like, I don't have no credit cards. I got 3 credit cards in consolidation, paying that off. I got one joint card with my wife that she don't want nothing to do with, and I got to pay that off myself because I loaded it up, maxed that one out. And then we have another joint card that was our main joint card that she's been spending a little more on because of her situation, and I just started spending on that. So it's like, like when I say I don't have it, I had to sell that stock. And that's where I got the gas from. That's where I got my racket strong. I'm gonna get a haircut tomorrow, so I'm looking really crazy, wolfish. So, along with all of that, I also, the job that I was talking about, that's been a month and a half, almost 2-month process. They actually deposited half of my bonus, my signing bonus. I got half of that today in good faith, because they've been very grateful that I've stuck with their process and endured this background check situation that's taken forever. And they wanted to show that they're still very much wanting me on board. So they gave me half of the bonus, which that only knocked my my main account down a little bit. Still in the negative, but not as much. So that's where I'm at financially. Physically, like I said, favoring the knee a little bit. It's not bothersome most times. It's only in certain moments, particularly if I'm standing for extended periods of time. That's where I feel it the most. But I'm still on the court playing tennis, lateral movement, cutting, no issues. I don't feel nothing. Lifting weights, no issues. I did do heavy squats yesterday. Shout out to me. 315 I did 315 for 3 sets of 5. Felt really good. I was like 90 to 95% of the depth I wanted to get, or I normally get on my squats, because I was considering the knee. But for the most part, no issues. It wasn't like I felt it and then I started pulling back. I was just concerned. So other than that, physically I'm good. I did miss the gym last week, Thursday and Friday, because I was working. So I was frustrated, and I didn't get to the track Saturday morning. I was trying to get to the track every Saturday to run hills, do certain track work, warm up on the track. I wanted to do that every Saturday morning through the summer. So that was only the second Saturday I missed. That was frustrating, but relatively minor. And I'm grateful that it was for some money. Somebody just walking through the parking lot screaming. Mentally, I would say, mentioning the divorce, that has started to weigh on me a little bit. It's starting to take a toll. I would say mentally and emotionally. I kind of lumped them together. I had a dream last night that, well, you know how you have those early morning dreams where it's like, okay, you're about to wake up, but you're not fully awake yet. It's kind of like within that 15 to 30 minute window, maybe an hour window before you wake up. I had one of those dreams. So it's like you almost kind of conscious, but you still sleep at the same time. It was one of those. And the last dream I had was of my wife. She was wearing this dress. It was given like 2010, 2008, like that era, 2012, of like freakum dress. I don't know why she had it on. She had it on. I'm guessing we was at the house, the apartment or something. She didn't have no shoes on. And it was like, I don't know if we had just came from somewhere, or if she was getting ready to go somewhere, or we were getting ready to go somewhere. The context is lost on me. But I saw her, and she saw me, and it was kind of one of those, and then I pull her close, and we're kissing, and then I woke up. It was a weird dream. One, because I hadn't been thinking of her intentionally, or whatever, the past couple of days. And two, just because of the nature of the dream, the dynamic with me kind of wanting to, or thinking about going a different direction, and not being able to hear from her, not having any communication with her. To have that kind of dream was unexpected. And it kind of, to wake up on that was kind of frustrating. So it was like, at least let me get something out the dream. Like, because I ain't getting nothing in real life. So, yeah, it's kind of taking a toll in that regard. And then also with the job situation, that's weighed on me mentally too. less emotionally, more mentally with the job situation. I've definitely been doing a lot of scrolling, a lot of Instagram, a lot of Threads, a little bit of Facebook. I haven't been doing as much YouTube. I've done better at pulling back on YouTube, trying to keep that momentum going. But it's definitely been notably more social media usage than when I'm working. Even if I was doing Uber, just because I have the phone right here, I'm usually not on my phone that much. Another element I would say was more emotional for me with the situation with my wife is not having a communication. The expectation was this past weekend I would hear from her about the divorce, about how she feels about our taxes, and all of the other situations we have not talked about in recent weeks and months. Her promise, her commitment was she would contact me this weekend. Didn't happen. So I'm going to try to contact her tonight and see where it goes from there. If no communication tonight, tomorrow I'm just trying to do a voice message like, look, we got to do this. We got to get this going because I can't do this no more. That's where I'm at. And if God wants to do something different, I'm open to it. I'm just not sensing that movement, So yeah. Another emotional element is like when I'm out and about, or if I'm on social media or on YouTube, at church, wherever I'm at, I'm seeing constant reminders of like what I desire, of what I thought my wife and I had, as well as where I was expecting us to go. As far as just like families, Father's Day was this Sunday, so that's one. Those days I kind of stay off social media because it's like, okay, now I'm gonna see all of my peers celebrating or being celebrated with their spouses or their children, or celebrating their parents, and their parents been married 50, like just all the different things. It's like, yeah, I'm cool. I don't have no desire to see none of that. Good for you. Not trying to hate. I just don't want to see it. So yeah, that's been emotional. Spiritually, I would say I was challenged by a few pieces of content I saw this past week. One was Philip Anthony Mitchell. It was on like a third-party IG page. You know how they be ripping content. But he was basically saying, do what you can to break out of your routine. Like, he was speaking about the Lord's Prayer from the Sermon on the Mount, and how culture then and now has taken that model of checking the boxes of that prayer. It's like, okay, pray this, then pray this, then pray this, and pray like this, and pray like this, which is okay to follow the model. But if it becomes so routine that your heart's not involved, or that you're not really intentionally trying to connect with the Lord, then that's an issue. And then another piece of content kind of reinforced that, I think, was Jonathan McReynolds, who was speaking on reaching, the idea of reaching and striving for the Lord, like really reaching to try to connect with him and press into his presence. Which, again, if you're just checking boxes and creating too much structure and too much routine, you're not leaving enough room or enough margin to be more intentional about trying to connect, trying to really hear from him, trying to really reach him. And so those things were for me were really big, because that's where I'm at now in this season of really trying to exercise real faith, is creating that margin, blocking out distractions, less time on socials, less time on YouTube, and more time really getting in that word. And to be fair, the past couple weeks I've been in that word a lot more. Finished up with Numbers Got into Deuteronomy, just trying to read straight through chronologically. More sermons. I want to do a better job of getting into worship too. But baby steps. I think I make an improvement. I think this is the season that God has me in to make that improvement. Family wise, like I said, Father's Day was Sunday. The siblings and I got him some Longhorn. Well, let me say the siblings. I picked it up. I didn't purchase it. Got him some Longhorn. Watched the Equalizer with him. Equalizer 1 and 2. I haven't seen 3, so I'm gonna have to try to watch that with him sometime this week. He doesn't remember it either, so I don't think he's seen it either. But that was good time. When I got home from the job, from the stage gig, Saturday morning, it was like 4:30 in the morning. He was still awake, and I forgot what he said. He said something, just concern, and also like just opening conversation. And my initial reaction, verbally, was, "Why are you still up?" Or, "I'm surprised that you're still up." It was something to that extent. And when I had time to reflect on it, I was like, I didn't want that to be the first thing I said, especially as I'm walking into my room. I wanted to say something more along the lines of, "I appreciate you staying up," or "Thanks for being concerned about me." Something didn't have to be super deep, super emotional, or super crazy, but just something more so expressing gratitude and appreciation that he did stay up, even though I'm a 37-year-old man. It was, and I didn't need him to do it. It's still the gesture that he did it, and showing appreciation and gratitude for the gesture. So that kind of ate at me a little bit, and it kind of reinforced my desire to rehabilitate how I approach my family. So I definitely want to get closer with my family, especially as my parents age, and I can start to see the manifestation of that. In recent months and years. I overall feel like I just have lost a lot of time and a lot of connection. My 2 nieces, are out of high school. One's currently in college. The other one tried and bailed, but she's doing her thing in other ways now. I just feel like I've missed a lot of time, and I want to find my family's all over. I've got a niece in school in Louisiana, my sister's in Houston, my brother's in Colorado. So it's just like what I grew up with, accustomed to as family, is no longer, and I still desire more closeness, but it's gotta look different. So figuring out how to navigate that is a challenge, which also is a mental and emotional weight. But that's something that I'm working on. I put this in here too, because I'm trying to be fully transparent. Was it sometime last week, Wednesday night, Thursday night, I don't remember. I was watching. I've watched this guy on YouTube called Dr. Jeloni. Wow, named Dr. John Deloney. And I'm watching through his videos. He has like a call-in radio show style of like mental health sessions, therapy sessions. And as I'm watching that, I'm, had a little stuff going on, a little activity. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't from what I was watching. It was just for guys know, since it's me, a man talking to men, if it's ladies watching, if it's been a while for a man, track with me. If you ain't had none in a while and you ain't handled your own business in a while, it can be a lot easier after a week, 2 weeks, especially 2 weeks. It's a lot easier for any kind of thought or any kind of brushing, any kind of stimulation to get your guy ready to go. And that's what was happening. It was later in the evening. My mind was nowhere near that thought, and I'm watching something that has nothing to do and is talking nothing about that. Nevertheless, little man was ready to go. So it was like 1:30 it was like 11:30, 12. It was almost midnight. And I'm like, old man's in the other room. All the lights out. Let me go ahead and, you know what I'm saying? Let me just go ahead and handle that. Ain't nobody else gonna do it. I hear the door close to the bathroom, which the hallway goes directly towards the room I'm in before you have to pivot and go to the bathroom. So I'm knowing in my spirit that prior to him getting to that bathroom, he glanced over and saw me on the couch doing what I'm doing. Going to town. That was super convicting. Super embarrassing. All the thoughts that already have gone through my head throughout the past 2.5 years, 37 years old, 35 at the time I got back to St. Louis, now 37, no job, literally on my dad's couch, no, kicked out of school, driver's license suspended. I got all the things going on. All the reasons to already be embarrassed about my situation. And now here I am trying to get some semblance of relief. And he see that. And I was just like, yeah, this is the lowest of the low. So when I say like mental, emotional, like lowness, like persistent, like frustration and like really feeling like, man, you ain't nothing. That kind of was the cherry on top. And he didn't say nothing about it. I ain't said nothing about it. I'm knowing he saw something. Like, that was my personal conviction, was like he saw something. So yeah, that was I felt a lot of shame. I ain't gonna lie. I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of embarrassment, to the extent where I'm like, I'm not doing that no more. We'll see how long that lasts, but within the past week or so from when that happened, every time that urge or that desires come up, I've literally been like, nah, bro, I'm not doing that. At first, I really tried to make a commitment in recent years to stop watching porn. I've probably watched porn 2 handfuls of times in the past 2 years, which to me is still a lot. It probably doesn't qualify as like addicted to porn, but I shouldn't be watching it at all. It'll get to the point where it's like, man, I really want to get some sense of semblance of intimacy and connection, because I'm not out here hitting everything, pursuing nothing. Like, I'm trying to be faithful to whatever is left of my marriage, and even after that, I ain't really trying to do nothing outside of marriage. So porn is has been my go-to, and I literally got a thing on my laptop, on my OneNote. So I got OneNote is how I kind of do my script, but I also use it for my personal notes. So check this out. I'm gonna have to cut this part out. No more porn, no matter what. So every day when I to-do list, and I copy and paste something from the previous day to the next day, that's one piece I always copy over to the next day. I want to make sure I see that every day, and I just want to like drill that into my brain. With masturbation, I want to do the same thing. I don't even want that to be a consideration or a thought like, oh, well, if I'm not thinking about this or if I'm not lusting after that, then I can do it with no conviction and no shame. And that may be true. That's up for debate, particularly in Christian circles. I personally don't. I just don't even want that to be a thought or a consideration. When the feeling comes up, I want to just direct my attention to other stuff. And I want to build up that level of discipline as a man. So, those are personal updates. I wanted to get to a topic that came up throughout the week last week when I was asking the question, who defines manhood? Obviously I left it open because there's no concrete answer. Particularly if you have different beliefs or different faiths. But I do think that there are consistent themes that most men can agree with. And a lot of the themes may not be limited to men. It could also apply to women, but things that are generally expected of men and standards held by men that are pretty universal. And the one that popped in my head was accountability. I've always strived to be an accountable man. I grew up very, very bubbled. You know, my family didn't let me go nowhere, didn't let me do nothing. Like, I was in the house. So when it came to what people today say as far as being outside, even when that opportunity came, my mindset wasn't there. Like I said, I always wanted to be married before I had sex. I always wanted to just have my girl, my wife, have my kids, be at the house, because that's what I saw. My dad was always at the house. He wasn't and isn't that kind of guy to go out like that. My mom liked to go out, but she was also very conservative too. She wasn't like, oh, let me try to sneak and, do this and get this, or just flirt a little bit or that. Like, she's very much like one man, woman, and very much committed to the idea of fidelity and family. So that's what I saw. That's what I desired. And with that, I was also a very obedient child. Like, I didn't do a whole lot of. Let me stop lying. When I was younger, so I say before North County and after North County. I moved to North County when I was 8, North St. Louis County. County is basically the suburbs, for those not from St. Louis. Before the suburbs, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, very much a liar, cheater, thief, all the sin, like, very much appealing to me. No conviction. Nobody was getting hurt other than myself. So let me do whatever I want to do. So I was a child. When I moved to the suburbs and I started to develop a more personal relationship or mutual relationship with my parents, and I saw the impact of my lying, cheating, stealing, sinning on them, even if it didn't directly affect them, it still affected them indirectly. That's when I started to develop conviction of like, oh, the things I do have impacts on other people in some way. And when I saw the negative impacts of things that I did, it made me want to be straight and narrow. I was very obedient in school. I still would talk, I would still be disruptive, but if I saw that it impacted teachers or fellow students, I pull back. Same thing with athletics. I was a try-hard, what they call a try-hard. I was always working my ass off in practice superstar, outrunning everybody, outworking everybody. I couldn't afford not to, because I was always undersized. Translating that into adult life, I remember I had a recent conversation with a member from my church, and I said something along the lines of, I've always been a rule follower. And she was like, and from, if you know her, you would know why this was like a little eyebrow raising. She was like, yeah, I'm not really a rule follower like that. You know, I try to live well, I try to live right and treat people right, but I wouldn't consider myself a rule follower. And it really kind of woke me up to how much, for me, I made rule following synonymous with accountability. So the first thing I say is, accountability to me is not it's not just following rules. Accountability could be like, you know what, I'm going to take this other path outside of the rules, outside of structure, whether it's for, you know, a good purpose or just because it's what I want to do. And I'm also going to be willing to be held accountable for that as well. It's not just, oh, I'm going to check all these boxes. It's, even if I go over here, I'm willing to submit to you or to whoever the accountability partner is. I'm going to submit myself to you to be able to check me or to critique me, to challenge me, to hold me accountable in that way. She's cute. So, I think that's a big thing, particularly now in culture, is that a lot of men are losing awareness of and respect for accountability. They're moving in ways and in spaces where accountability isn't necessary or it's not present. And then if accountability is being introduced to them, it's foreign and or frustrating for them, to the point where they'll put up walls or they'll give some pushback. So there was a couple guys at the gig that I was at. There was a couple guys at the gig that I was at on Friday. Everybody was getting along. Everybody's laughing, joking, talking about how grateful they are for the opportunity, getting the money that they're getting, doing the work. But there were two guys there who were like basically taking advantage of the system. It's an honor system. You could literally go into the dome or wherever they have you at, sign your name on a paper to let them know you're there, and then you could disappear until the work is done. You can walk right back out and go in your car. And if they're not paying attention, they're not going to know, because they're not checking for you. It's not that you're not like on an electronic clock or with supervisors or people who are actually monitoring you that know you by name. So you don't really have to do no work. It's honor. Excuse me. These two guys were abusing that honor. And so since I didn't have a relationship with them, I didn't feel obligated or entitled to hold them accountable. I very much wanted to say something to them like, yo, why don't y'all do some work, man? I get it that, you know, it's smooth, it's easy, you know, ain't nobody tripping, but off of honor, off of being a man in this space, y'all young men, it's old men in here that's working harder than y'all. Why don't y'all do something? Every opportunity I witnessed of work being presented where there are multiple people around, I would see them kind of shrink off to the side or slide to the back. And it frustrated me. The first thing about that stood out was what I just mentioned. I don't have a relationship with them. I think it's difficult for accountability to work from man to man or from man to anybody without relationship. It's not just about one person holding the other person accountable, wagging their finger, or just being critical or challenging them. It's also about the individual receiving accountability. If you're not willing to receive the accountability and submit yourself to the person holding you accountable, if you're lacking that desire of submission, the accountability is not going to work. Accountability is not just like a parent to a child, or a teacher to a student, or a coach to a player. It's two individuals who are mutually committed to the desired outcome, with the individual in submission saying, I want this outcome, and I'm going to let you hold me accountable for this desired outcome. It's got to be that submission is a big part of the accountability process. Submission for a lot of men in culture is not a word that applies to them. Submission is for women, whether they've got Christocentric views or just greater cultural views. What's been baked in to the foundation of what we believe as men is that submission is a woman thing. They submit to us. We don't submit to nobody. I would argue against that from a Christian perspective and from a practical perspective. I think everybody at some point submits to someone. It's just a matter of who it is. You submit to your boss, you submit to a parent, you submit to a coach, you submit to whoever pays your check, or you submit to an authority figure, a police officer, or a PO. You're going to submit to somebody at some point, unless you're a trillionaire. Shout out to Elon Musk. But for the general male population, submission is necessary in some form or fashion for most men. And it's not necessarily a negative thing when that happens. So I think there has to be a rewiring for a lot of men around what submission looks like in order for them to consider being held accountable by somebody that they respect. That's number one. And then number two, I think there needs to be similar levels of morality. My laptop's about to die. Similar levels and metrics of morality that both men agree on, in order for that accountability to be offered and received. For me, again, I'm a Christian, so I'm looking for another man who I can observe in their day-to-day life and see, okay, this man lives his life according to the tenets of the Bible or the scriptures. He lives his life in the way of Jesus. And based on how he lives, I wouldn't mind submitting myself to his authority or his accountability in certain instances, particularly if I'm trying to get a desired outcome and I want someone to hold me accountable and to challenge me and to push me. I'm looking for him to line up to these standards. If it's another faith or if it's just practical, there has to be alignment there. If you're wanting to be a carpenter, if you're wanting to be a mechanic, if you're wanting to be a pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, or if you're just wanting to be a better man of respect, how you manage your money, how you manage your schedule, how you manage your fitness, how you manage your intelligence, and how you manage, dealing with women. You're looking for a man who has similar ideals or greater ideals and morals, and how they move in their day-to-day life, whether they match up to that morality or that standard or not. If they don't, or if they're shaky, if they're flip-floppy, 50-50, the accountability you get from them will reflect that. Because how can I hold you to a standard that I don't follow or don't follow consistently? It's a lot easier to find somebody who has a consistent standard that you, I won't say idolize, but that you admire, and be like, how do I get there? Help me understand and help me execute the plan to get to that standard that you hold. So I think accountability is a big foundational piece of manhood. And I think because accountability is lacking with a lot of men in my age group, younger millennials, as well as younger age groups, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, there are going to be generations of men who are not used to and probably unwilling to submit themselves to authority and to accountability, which has a trickle-down effect to our communities. It's already evident as a black man in the communities I've grown up in and I've been adjacent to and around, but it's becoming more and more apparent, and to me, it's getting worse, because men, in my opinion, are the foundations of any community. If you don't have strong men, you don't have a strong community. So yeah, I'm going to talk more about that and other themes of manhood throughout the next couple weeks, and just kind of keep this format going. I'm very surprised that I touched on everything that I wanted to touch on in under an hour. Very surprised, very proud of myself. I'm not known for my brevity and conciseness, so pat on my own back. I'm actually about to make this move to the church in a couple minutes for my discipleship group, and try to continue to grow from all the things that I said. The reason I wanted to do this, like I said last week, to be completely transparent with my journey and my process of where I'm going as a man, and also to speak to different items and educational angles and research that can benefit you as a man or a man that you may know. So I'm gonna try to incorporate more stats and data and research with the back half of my episodes, as opposed to just my opinions, which that's pretty much what today was about. Accountability, it was my opinions. Maybe I'll revisit accountability next week with some data and some research or some secondhand sources. But yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this going, improve the editing, improve the content, maybe start making clips, and really try to make this a thing and see if it could be of any use to any other men. I appreciate y'all. I gotta come up with some kind of closing tag, like keep fighting or something corny like that. But yeah, man, keep working. I will say that, keep working. Be gracious to yourself as a man. If you're trying hard and you're not seeing success or not getting an ideal outcome, keep pushing. Stay hopeful. Things can turn around just like that. You never know. But I'm gonna leave it there. You have a good rest of your week. I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.